We'll jump right into it. Episode 21. We are back, and this time, as or as per what our conversation was, hey, we're going to do a regularly scheduled episode, and I hit Jordan up, and we said, hey, Monday, and so here we are. It's Monday. What is it? 11th of May, and we're doing another episode. This one will be a little bit of a freestyle. So my name is Felipe, and Jordan's on the other end of this country, and yeah, I'll do a little freestyle today. What's going on, Jordan?
Oh, just trying to stay with my head above water right now with the roles I hold right now. And yeah, that's been taking a lot of my time. Also trying to step in every once in a while and help my wife with the schoolwork just to show her that the unified front for the kids is a big thing, to know that both parents are on the same page. This homeschooling thing, I'm not against homeschooling, but the way that the school district has thrown the parents into the mix without the proper tools and
Mm-hmm.
resources to adequately support the education the kid needs has added a lot of extra undue stress on families. So I'm not doing a great job yet because I've been just busy in general. But yeah, trying to show a little bit of support there. And my wife is killing it. She gets frustrated, but she is doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I was never homeschooled. I know some of my extended family members have homeschooled. I know some other people that have homeschooled. It's a tough deal, man. It's not easy. It definitely helps you to appreciate what teachers do and the crap that they put up with. They put up with our little shit ass kids, So, um, yeah, God bless them. But no, it's not easy. And the little interaction that I've had with our daughter, she's done. Their school year's over, but yeah, it's not easy. It takes a lot of I guess attention for you to sit down and go through all the stuff that they need to go through, and then when you have two of them, two little ankle biters running around, it's I'm sure it just makes it that much more difficult. And they're boys, and all they want to do is play, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's it's about, they want to play and go on their iPads. I want a new game, Dad.
I've got a game for you. It's called Go Outside and Play. How about that?
Go find me some worms.
So, well, but just when you said iPad, it made me think of something in children and all that. So, I don't know that I don't think we covered this on the last episode. So, our daughter is I guess in the stage of lying. So she loves to lie for whatever reason because she thinks it's going to help her along. And she deliberately took her iPad and put it under her pillow before she went to bed so that she could, after she quote unquote goes to bed and we go to bed, she could sit on her iPad and watch YouTube or whatever. And Sherry found it and was like, "What's this?" First words that came out of her mouth. I don't know how that got there.
Not my pants,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. And so she like was asked about it a couple of times. She blatantly lied, and so I'm like, "All right, well, I'm not dealing with this tonight." So I dealt with it the next day. But you know, she doesn't have any electronics in her room for a reason, because when you're in your room, you need to be asleep. That's my rules, my house, whatnot. So I don't have a TV in my room, but yeah. So she got that taken away. No electronics, no nothing until further notice, unless it's schoolwork. So yeah.
It's with the lying thing. I think you talked about being a stage, and I think kids, as they go through these, obviously hormonal changes happening too, but the idea of your brain growing and adapting to society and to your environment. Looking at like my kids, they're 6 and 7, almost 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
You get put into situations and you catch them red-handed, and their emotional response to something is to avoid a consequence. Like your brain is trained to search, evade, and to find a solution for the optimal path of success for you. So I think at some point, yes, it's lying, but how do we take that idea of them just their brain trying to survive in that environment? Do I think they're malicious, filthy, dirty liar that they're
Mm-hmm.
out to get ahead in life because they're lying?
No.
I'm not sure I'm at that stage yet, but I understand where you're coming from, and I don't know the right solution. People might say I'm a millennial parent, too soft, but sometimes the approach that our parents might have taken over some of this stuff, I'm not sure is as scientifically based as maybe they could have,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm not going to put a belt to her ass because, I mean, she's 10 years old, and I'm going to leave that up to her mother. because I don't want, yeah, no, it's everybody has different ways of disciplining their kids, and some people still believe in, the uh, the belt to the ass. I still believe in it as well. I think there's a time and place for it, but with her, I'm not gonna spank her. I'm gonna figure out a way to make her miserable, and really think about, like, because I my thing is like, yeah, you lied. It happens. I lied to my parents all the time when I was a kid. Everybody does, but I want her to understand what the consequences are and why we don't lie. And so it's one of those things that I just want her to know, to realize that, to understand that. Like, look, I told her, like, if you would have just told the truth, you wouldn't be in as much trouble as you are right now. If you'd have just said, hey, yeah, I got caught. My hand was in the cookie jar. I got busted. I'll take my punishment accordingly. I'd rather that than immediately lie, because that tells me something about your character. And so I told her, hey, I have no trust in you anymore. So you need to gain that trust back.
So, question though, like I'll push back there. I'm
Yep.
not judging your parenting style, but just the idea of something you said. I don't trust you. You're 10 years old. Do you think a 10-year-old can completely understand what the ramifications of those actions to really build the character person who they are? And what I mean by that is, like my 6-year-old kid, he'll tell a lie to survive that situation because he knows that like the wrath is potentially coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that that point there, that's actually a character issue, or it could be more of an insecurity, like a self issue, where it's not like they're a liar by nature. Their character's not, I don't think you did a bad job raising your daughter
Mm-hmm.
because she's surviving right now. And some of that is based off your insecurities. Actions are pushed outward.
Mm-hmm. No,
Um,
no, I think that's a great. I think that's a great point. It's a good way to look at it. Yeah, like what does she understand and what does she not understand, or what can she grasp at the age of 10 years old? At this point, does she understand the whole trust thing, or where are we with that? And I don't think she was trying to be malicious or anything like that. She just didn't want to get in trouble. That's all it was. She lied because she didn't want to get in trouble. So yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, for me, this is, I don't have a manual that says when kid does X, Y, and Z, I can, refer, just like in the military, or your vehicle or whatever, you have a manual. There's no manual for this crap. So you kind of, you have to make the best decision, the best judgment that you can. So I don't
yeah,
know.
I'm not judging. Like I said, I'm
All right.
fighting the same battle. Something that I'm trying to do better is understand like the behavior behind the scenes, like what's causing these behaviors to maybe help them understand how to change their pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of my kids, a little bit easier to do this with. He does tell a lot of small lies. Um, but what I started doing, and it's actually helped some, is I minimize. So when I catch him red-handed, I know already he's gonna try to defend it in a way that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that, I want to try to train his behavior to be better, like to understand the right outcome is this. So instead of just accusing him, I actually downplay it right away and like almost give him a reason for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing that he's going to tell me like a partial truth. So if he stole 10 cookies, I'm like, oh, did you just steal one? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I just took one. I'm like, I'm not mad at you for what you did. I want you to know that you can tell me what's going on and what the reality of the situation is and explain the positive outcomes of telling the truth instead of coming at it from the front end of discipline and then working backwards. Because then it's like he's going to double down and get more crafty next time. Dang it, that's what I did. The heavy hand of the
Yeah.
punishment, heavy hand of the law comes down. What do? I adapt and I become more creative and I get more like covert with my lying efforts.
Yeah, you change up your tactics. No, 100%. I'm right there with you. And so part of it was that, I told her the same thing. I'm like, look, I'm not really that upset about the iPad under the pillow. I get it. I just want you to be honest with me. Just tell me the truth.
Sure.
That's really what I want, because I know she's tried to manipulate. She's in the manipulative stage, where she tries to manipulate certain people to kind of get what she wants. And so I figured it was just a stage in life. I figured that's what happens. She's 10 years old, so hormones are starting to kick in. She's got zits on her forehead, and body changes are happening. So I know there's a lot going on. But I don't. I didn't yell at her or anything like that. I just said, hey, look, this is not kosher. This is not how we do business. Like, this is not, and yeah, is she gonna lie to me again? Of course, I know that. I 100% know that. And so I wanted to be able to understand kind of what's going on, and maybe I confused her. I don't know.
Sure. No, I mean, this is good dialogue. 'Cause I think every parent out there struggles with this, or honestly, even into adulthood. Like a lot of people have literally, I think I've heard this phrase called arrested development. So
Hmm.
let's say, and this is way out of context for this, but I'm trying to go somewhere with this. Adults do a lot of similar behavior that kids do that you never grew past. So you were traumatized as a kid, and they have this thing called arrested development. I don't know all the science behind it, but essentially, certain behaviors never actually mature past 15 years old. So you keep
Really?
doing these manipulative behaviors that we know socially are not cool, but we keep doing them. We'll put a better mask on them sometimes, but it happens in relationships and working relationships, whatever. So that's where I'm looking at now is like, a lot of things society tells us we should do to parent hasn't been working for a lot of generations. So why do we keep perpetuating the same kind of, methodology when we have, I'm not 100% in the science camp. I believe in my faith, but I believe that there is some science to how our bodies operate. So
Hmm.
can we take the way the brain operates and look at that through the lens of my faith and how I want to perceive the world? And then that's the new view in which I'm going to kind of raise my kids and operate. So
Hmm.
just, yeah, it's interesting stuff when you kind of stop, when you think of a lot of adults have the same behaviors as my 6 and 7 year old, just on a grown up scale.
Yeah, that well, Arrested Development. As soon as you said Arrested Development, I thought of a TV show. Was it? I think was it Jason Bateman that was in that one. I can't remember who was all in that one. Anyways, but so that as you're talking about that and explaining now, what you mean, I can see exactly some of those behaviors with people that I interact with, more than just once a day, or people, excuse me, people that I interact with on, weekly or daily basis, whatever. I can see some of those things in them where I don't think that and I'm sure I have some as well, but that they've never grown out of. It's very interesting. I think that's a good point.
But on a brighter note, I
Hmm.
taught my kids how to start a fire with the magnifying glass this weekend. So that was,
Yes,
a big step in the right direction.
dude, that's awesome. No, that's good. We're going camping this weekend. Like, I saw the pictures of you guys going, hiking or camping or whatever y'all went. That was
Hmm.
so. Yeah, I need to show Kaya how to start a fire with a magnifying glass. I'm glad you brought that up. So.
We should start a challenge like literally right now in our own spaces and our own families, like every week post a new way to start a fire, like the bow drill method. Like, uh, I mean, I'm drawing a blank now at all the options here, but flint rods and,
Gasoline.
gasoline, rubbing sticks together. Apparently that works. Just thinking about like, friction fires versus, static electricity versus just whatever you have at your disposal, but
Hmm.
post like a picture of how an explanation. So like the challenge being maybe just to help your family understand some of the survival, mentality, but then also kind of a fun way to spur on some dialogue between families.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I got you. I've got a fire pit in the backyard and lots of wood because I got trees down in my backyard. So I think I've got plenty of resources to practice. You see, neighbors probably think I'm a weirdo or something, but
And dude, if that's what it took to get you over the edge on the weirdo piece, you're doing okay.
yeah. Well, I walk around outside with ranger panties on, so that probably, and flip flops. So
I'd still
yeah.
run 5 miles in your flip flops.
Oh man, I would die. I think if I ran 5 miles, I'd die right now. I haven't ran in a long time. Um, but yeah, so we'll bring up you're talking about. I lost my wording, but anyways, so our meditation challenge. Obviously, I need to be called out for that because I dropped out of it quite early, and so I'll fully admit, yep, I dropped out because I wasn't there 100%. I wasn't giving it my 100%. I felt that I wasn't doing it justice, and I was starting to get behind. And I'm like, well, I need to try this some other time. I've got a lot of things going on internally that I'm dealing with, and other things that are going on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hold off for now. I want to re-engage this. It's at a later date this year, just to re-engage it because I think I think the few days that I did it, I did find it helpful. I think it's great.
So it's interesting, and obviously it's a non-judgment thing. I mean, kind of judgment, but kind of not.
Judge
No.
away.
So when I started it for the first time last go around, before this one, someone else invited me, and I did the same thing you were doing, and engaging with me as the host and you as the attendee. And I kind of the same thing. Like I was committing, but some days I didn't have as much time. And in fact, I didn't even read through all the instructions. Like I wrote hey, thanks for putting this on. I'm excited. He's like, per the notes, no like comments here, right?
Hmm.
So I was kind of chuckling about that. So actually, after a couple of days of not paying attention to all the rules, like putting done, I got kicked out of the group. Like he removed me from the group, and I'm like, what the
Hmm.
crap? Like I was enjoying this. So, and he's a good dude. I a lot of respect for the guy, and he's a realtor, like phenomenal guy. So I messaged him like, "What's up, bro?" I like, "Why you gonna kick me out of the group like that?" He's like, "Well, you weren't following the instructions." I'm like, "Wow, this is a pretty serious meditation group." But the cool thing was, it actually like it woke me up. Like, so I actually went through the motions.
Yeah, well, and that's like I actually did read all the instructions, unlike you. So I'll call you out on that. I actually did read through every letter, every sentence of the instructions, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But yeah, I just because I knew what was coming up as far as my schedule, and I knew, and that's not an excuse. I'm just making up excuses here, um, but I did want to make sure that I gave it 100%, and that I was not doing that. So I felt like that wasn't a justice to, I didn't, to myself and to everyone else. So it's an injustice, in my opinion.
Sure. No, and dude, it's like I said, this is just an opportunity to help give other tools to help people in their walks every day. But when you do find time to even, not even in a challenge sense, but cherry pick a couple days in there, you don't have to do it in order even. But when you go through that daily routine, just one day, let's say you have less distractions, go through the motions. You'll be surprised at what actually happens in the end. I'm going through it this is round 2 now. So I'm doing the same pattern everybody else right now, but I've already done the whole challenge once,
Hmm.
and it does make a big difference. So yeah, like you said, when time comes where you have more time on your hands and where you're actually given the 100%. But for those that are listening that aren't even given the 100% in your own opinion, still stick with it. And even if it's 70%, it's still 70% you weren't giving to that area prior to. So
Okay. Yeah.
um,
No, and that makes sense. I mean, it's a good way to put it. Even if you put 70% in, that's 70% more than you were before. So no,
yeah.
I agree. It's a good point. That's a good point.
Um, so you had mentioned like, what's going on, and something that I think we should talk about a little bit is like right now, the current status of America is kind of obviously like it went from this pandemic, the newness, the novelty of it, all this kind of stuff, the medical, the science, and we talked with Dan last week, which I'm glad we did, kind of about the data collection and how we actually process information and where to go to get a true source. But now, with this General Flynn information coming out, and then in Washington State specifically, we have a lot of these mandates handed down by a governor turned dictator,
Hmm.
these edicts that he's just proclaimed as the new law of the land, and some of this contact tracing stuff. So like if you go to a restaurant, you have to give your ID card and your address, your phone number, all that kind of stuff to sit down and have dinner. Like once they do open restaurants on a minimal limited basis. So like they're making you violate your rights to be able to have food that is your God-given right to go get that food from establishment that really has no business ascertaining your information. And to furthermore, like they have these ideas of like, it's for voting purposes to mandate someone have an ID card, state issued ID card is over the top, and it's way too intrusive, and it's discriminatory in nature to
How?
protect this idea of I don't even know what it is. But the fact of the matter is now they're having me present an ID card to go and eat food, like to go to church, like literally taking lists down of people who's going to church when.
Nunya.
They're going to have the National Guard like follow up and mandate quarantines potentially with certain individuals that test positive or have been in contact with people that can help limit the amount of spreading. It's like that's their mentality right now, and then based off the new things I've seen and we had a lot of assumptions over the last couple of years with this Trump Russia collusion, but some of the actual facts that are being poured out now, I'm pretty concerned. I don't know about you, but there's definitely some things looming right now. Like I do not see this going well if they keep pushing this envelope this direction.
No. I agree with you. Like as far as we're moving in a bad direction with, state governors and state officials have more control over the state now and have been given a lot more authority, I guess. And we're not, and a lot of people are abusing that power. And for you to have to show an ID card to go to church, that's pretty silly. Like, we don't live in a communistic uh, country where it's outlawed or anything like that. We're like in China, where Christians are being persecuted and murdered and killed by the dozens all the time. We don't ever hear about it really unless you actually search it, because it's not, they don't want it to be mainstream news. um, Thankfully, we don't have that here, but yeah, it's with all the rules and all the things that are going on with this quote unquote pandemic thing. I don't like it either. I'm not happy about it. I think personally, I think it's been blown way out of proportion. And yeah, we need to take some precautionary measures, but I think we've taken a little bit too many precautionary measures. And as soon as states open up, which some are already, you're going to have an increase in cases. Duh, that's what happens. That's how it goes. Like, that's what we have to deal with, and then we try to fix it the best way we can. Do your preventative measures as best as possible. If you're really sick, if you're old crusty person and you're sick and you're more susceptible to illnesses, then don't go out. I mean, that's just the reality of it. That's how it goes. So yeah, I don't like it either. I'm not happy with the way things are going right now.
That's what I kind of question, like the idea of is this, because on the federal level, it looks like they're trying to be somewhat reasonable. And one thing I have, like, Trump's made some blunders over this whole time period, this since, let's say, January even.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to give him some accolades in a sense. Like, he is trying his best to give authority to the states and where it should be. Authority should
Mm-hmm.
be localized at a very local level. Like, that's where it
Yeah.
should be held. So I can appreciate that. I think governors are overstepping their bounds a ton. But I'm wondering, like, Washington is one end of the extreme for as far as governors, and like he's acting like a dictator right now. I'm wondering though, like in Alabama where you're at, like I wonder is it similar, or do you guys feel like a lot more of like things are, you know, obviously there's still a new way of looking at things because of the pandemic, or as they called it. Do you feel that your rights are being trampled on daily, or how do you guys, like, what's the climate there?
I think the climate where I'm at, specifically in Alabama, I think the climate is actually pretty good. The restrictions, or the rules, or whatever you want to call it, put out by the governor of Alabama, it wasn't bad. Seemed like it was common sense. Um, and in Georgia, a lot of salons and a lot of places have opened up, and so I feel like it's a little bit more relaxed around here. It doesn't seem like it's so the tension isn't that high here as it is like in New York or Washington State. I mean, look at De Blasio and Cuomo. Like, come on, all you need is one more guy in there, and you got the Three Stooges. Like, I have no love for those two dudes. Like, I could go on a rant about them for a long time. You talk about every life is worth it, and it's like, well, if every life is worth it, then why do you support abortion? So that's my rebuttal to things like that. But um, I think our rights are always being trampled on a little bit, but as far as pre-COVID and then now, I think we're doing good. It's not too bad. It's there. Things could always be better, but I think it was handled pretty well in the state of Alabama and Georgia.
Sure. Something that you said kind of triggered a thought. And we had touched on this before, that Simon Sinek approach of, the power of why, like asking the question why from like internal perspective. Why am I doing this? So if we collectively, it doesn't matter, like agnostic to party, agnostic to religion, gender, whatever, on an individual basis, filter everything you do through that question. Okay, why am I doing this? So for one instance, you talk about common sense. We were at Target this weekend getting my mother-in-law some Mother's Day gifts, and I was walking to the store. I had my two boys with me, and looking at people. Many
Mm-hmm.
different things were happening. You'd see husband and wife or boyfriend girlfriend scenario, but you can tell some with kids. At least we're living together, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have some of the party with masks, some of the party without. Like, tell me that makes sense, right? And then I saw a couple, senior citizens living on the edge apparently. Um, the idea of them being out, that's their God-given right. They want to go out and put themselves in that position. That's on them, right? And they should have that ability. But they had masks on. The masks were on their chin, like
Hmm.
on their chin, right? Covering their facial hair.
Yeah.
The idea of that is like, okay, now we're appeasing these rules. And it's not, I didn't have a mask on. My kids didn't have a mask on. You weren't required to have a mask to go in the store, but they're in their own opinion thought the mask was a good idea, but yet to use it appropriately was not. So I think if you looked at things, and then the third element I saw in the store, my observations, every single person that had a mask on that looked like it was being worn appropriately, every single person, if I observed for over a minute, which I did, I was in line for a long time. Every person I saw literally put their finger up into their mask at least once, if not more than once. So every application of the mask in that setting was already like, it's a moot point.
Hmm.
And additional, you see things like at restaurants with gloves, people wearing the same pair of gloves every time, touching their face the same way they would touch it regardless, touching ID cards, touching whatever, or like credit cards, wearing masks, touching their face. Like there's nothing changing, but we're putting these feel good measures in place that are impeding people from doing their jobs and living their lives how they're supposed to. So it's like if we could question even those basic fundamental things they're trying to force on us now, like to go out in public, you have to wear these. I'm not against it, like just carte blanche if it makes sense for that given application for that like this situation. But right now, on an individual basis, I have not seen like one person wear a mask appropriately yet. And I know it's training, it's going through the motions, get all that stuff right. But if we can actually stop as individuals and ask, why are we putting the mask on? If we're not going to use it right, why use it at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people around here, you see what's funny to me and what kills me is you see people driving around in their vehicles and they have a mask on. They're all by themselves. And that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That's so
Hmm.
stupid. And like what all the information that's coming out, we have to take a step back and take it with a grain of salt and look at it and say, ask the question why. That's the first thing I do. Well, why? That's how I am. But all the information they're giving, reporting to us is stuff that's days or weeks old. It's nothing there. No one can tell the future. So everything is from the past. We talked about it on the last episode. So yeah, I get it. Take precautionary measures, but everything we are learning, everything is from days past. So you can make a prediction, but do I think that 2 million people are going to die in the U.S. due to COVID? No, I don't think so. I hope not. Wish no one would die, but I don't think that the numbers are going to be as drastic as people are saying. So um, that like my faith in local and federal government has really been depleted throughout all this because it's the overall goal is power and money because they can control the masses with the power they hold. So that's a problem that I have because or thankfully Trump actually is smart about it and said, hey, look, states, you take care of it. I'm not going to take care of it. The federal government isn't going to mandate every single little thing. It's your job as the state governor to take care of it. It's your job. It's your responsibility. So I'm glad that he did that, but we see where that ended up with a lot of people, or a lot of states I should say.
Sure. Which obviously now they're exercising their God-given rights to sue the governors, to sue the administration in place that they believe they are overstepping their bounds. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's where we have court systems. But the unfortunate thing about that even is like out here, on the West Coast, a lot of the court systems are very, very, liberal leaning in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So it is tough to get the ruling because a lot of it's politically based, and it's not like where you think the rule of law is very, agnostic to party platforms, but it's unfortunately seemingly not, which is
Mm-hmm.
that's a scary piece too. And how do you combat this on a level where the the recourse you have is through these channels, and the channels are almost, they're too biased to be a good like actual plan of attack, how to get over this kind of stuff legally without having riots and bloodshed, because that's the last thing we'd want is to neighbors to be fighting neighbors over this kind of stuff. But seemingly a lot of people are getting that frustrated. It's like they need to step up in a leaders have to act, and they have to act more appropriately, because there's a lot of stirring that's happening, and I've heard quite a bit of talk in my neighborhood, even like if they did this, then X is going to happen. And I don't know if they're like how serious they are, but there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot more people that I would never expect to have said that are saying those kind of things now. And Yeah, I hope our leadership starts to act in a more appropriate and sensible manner, because it's not going to be pretty if they keep down this road for too much longer.
Well, and just before we hit record, you were talking about there's people that are making more money on this unemployment than they normally would working their job. So why would they go back to work? I don't blame them. Shoot, I wouldn't either. If I'm getting paid twice what I normally get paid, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna stay on that unemployment. So that's not helping at all. We're in that only lasts for so long. We can't sit here and just take money and pump it into the system and just keep giving money to people that refuse to go to work because they're like, well, I'm afraid. Well, that's your choice then. So here's your options. If the
Sure.
business if the business that you were working at is willing to keep you as an employee and they're open for business and you refuse to go to work, then guess what? Your unemployment benefits cease. So that to me, that's a simple, it's a black and white issue right there.
It is. However, you're put in a position now where we have to retain a certain amount of our employees to keep, like for that grant that came out of that loan. If you adhere to certain standards, you get some of that forgiven. So if you're not able to actually function because you're not essential business as they decided fit, um, you hire your employees back, and you can't work. So you're not making money right now. But the whole idea was to keep them on your system to when you do get to bump them back up, it's a smooth sailing, so to speak. Your employee base is there. You don't have to go and hire a bunch of new employees. The unemployment system doesn't get bottlenecked like it has. It would be
Mm-hmm.
even a lot worse if they didn't have some of these programs in place. So the problem is that some of these employees don't want to show up to work, even on the true employment check they've been getting all along.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them, like which, for instance, we have online training we're trying to do. Like we periodically do training to get, like OSHA 30 classes, first aid classes, just a bunch of, ongoing training you should do throughout the year. We're
Mm-hmm.
using the time wisely, saying, okay, let's just pay for this training, have the employees go through it now. And I had some guys working with me on some tech type stuff, like testing out our product and whatnot, and helping me do that kind of stuff. And I'm like, great, I have some more resources. It's going to be awesome. I couldn't get guys to answer their phone. Finally, you get an email from one of the guys, and he says, "Oh, my phone was broken." Okay, that's reasonable, but you don't tell me there's not one other person in your circle that you can call me. So, anyways, then I find out that he was Snapchatting from his phone to somebody else, another person in the company, and it's frustrating when that's not. There's like 3 or 4 guys I work with directly that are
Mm-hmm.
literally bucking the system completely because they know we have no recourse. So we have to keep them on if we want to maintain our threshold or hire new employees. But there's
Mm-hmm.
not a ton of employees sitting out there wanting to get picked up because of unemployment right now, and the unemployment is paying them more than they would get on our payroll.
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's a broken system. And sure, everybody's going to say, oh, for every situation, there's going to be some knee jerk reaction, downstream effects, and it is what it is. It comes with the territory. But the problem is, every single thing we do has these negative downstream effects.
Yes, it does, and I'm sure it's very frustrating. And when you said that the guy said his phone was broken, I guess he's still some of that arrested development is still there, huh? That the lying factor is still there. Um, which is shitty because the dude obviously just straight bullface lied to you, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do that. I don't. My phone doesn't work. That's you see it all the time. Unfortunately, that is the case a lot of the times, and um, obviously, I don't have answers for everything, but there is a way to get us back into pre-COVID. It's just when government officials make it so much more easy to not work and then to work, it's hard to kind of get push people back into, hey, you got to get your ass to work because like it's we're gonna drain the system. We're going to
Sure.
completely, yeah. We're in those people that are still working, the people that are working, paying taxes. Yeah, they're going to get tapped because people are going to have to start raising taxes to keep up with the where we are at currently. And so it's yeah, we got to have we got to rip the band-aid off and make some changes.
Yeah, I agree. One area we should talk about is the amount of crap circulated on social media and other platforms, even in text threads or group messages. The amount of crap that is circulated without doing any kind of fact checking or due diligence on both sides of the fence. There's
Mm-hmm.
actually a lot of people that I shouldn't say a lot. There's a few people that I respect but the respect is dwindling very quickly because of their inability to stop and actually read past an article headline to
Mhm.
see what's this article about, and they pass it on because it's got the right wing stamp of approval on it. So they
Mhm.
pass it along as truth, gospel. You open that article up, and it's got all these sources that are unnamed, and all these facts that aren't really facts, are just conjecture and hot air.
Mhm.
We have to start being more diligent about this stuff and actually checking in on what we're circulating around. It's not like it just like that's you're putting your name on that. You're saying this is what I believe. This is what I understand. This is what I put my stamp of approval on. So when you go and pass it on, I see you for nothing more than another puppet. That's what essentially you become. If you can't stop and like fact check what you're doing and what you're seeing and what you're reading, like what's everything you stood for. You spent years in the military, and yet you're going to trample on your own ability to understand what you're passing on. Like you're becoming part of the problem and not the solution.
Yeah, you see a lot of reposting and whatnot, and so one thing I will put in there or add to that is, so you say check the facts. Well, when you go to a fact checker, what is that thing? The gospel, though. When you go somewhere to, check your facts, like, well, I'll throw Snopes out there. Snopes is known to be a very left leaning website. So a lot of the things that they have on there is their opinion, and the fact may not be an actual fact. It's their belief and their opinion on a certain subject or whatever. So that's the issue right there. Yeah, we can start doing fact checking, but at what point do we actually know, or how do we know it's actually the truth? It is a fact and not just someone's opinion or someone's political leaning or somebody's belief.
Yeah, I said the exact same thing. In fact, Dan and I were going back and forth. There's a video that had been circulating on Facebook last week, and I didn't circulate it, but someone had sent it to me via Messenger, and I did some fact checking, not through Snopes, but sent it to Dan, and he actually sent back some things like that. And I would agree. And I told him take a step further than that. Facts are a collection or a series of truths that collectively are agreed upon as a fact. And oftentimes, history is written by the victors. So if I want the outcome to say this, and I have a study that is undermined by someone else's study, and I put the other person out of business, so to speak,
Hmm.
the new fact is what people are going to see in 10 years. I wrote the history there, right? And oftentimes, money and power has the ability to write what we see 10 years removed. So those are now viewed as facts, collectively agreed upon by a civil group or a social group, the new fact. But we can't really check the origin story of that. So there's definitely a lot of validity to what you're saying. But I think even there, if you can stop and question it and say, if you can't validate some of this stuff, at least put it in a light like, hey, this is some interesting perspective on the situation.
Hmm.
But the fact when someone will just like read a headline and just recirculate, but like that one video, I don't know if you watched that one or not, like 25 minutes, and it was like kind of going through the chain of command with Dr. Fauci and how his involvement with a lot of different agencies, and how he is going to potentially be benefiting by billions if they do go forward with 100% vaccines on everybody and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, once and so I no, I haven't seen that video. I've been trying to stay away from social media other than like Instagram, because the people that I follow post some hilarious stuff. And I don't get as much political information there. I just get funny memes, and I look at guns and vehicles and things like that and welding stuff. And so just because I want to like just kind of completely disconnect, but that right back to what I was saying, money. I how many of these people that are Dr. Fauci, all these other people. I'm not accusing them, but I'm just saying how many of these people have money in the game, money to gain in the game here. Bill Gates owns 15% of WHO, World Health Organization, and we've seen that we've had some issues with the information that the WHO is putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have Bill Gates, everybody knows who Bill Gates is. It's not like he's a poor guy. He's ridiculously rich. So um, that's where question everything. Don't believe everything right off the bat, and question everything. I think that's the best advice you can give anybody. And then do your own research, and then come up with your own conclusion on that. You can choose to believe it, or you can choose to disagree with it. So I try to, if I repost something, I try to at least look at it, research it a little bit, and then if I don't know that much about it, I'll just say, hey, what do you think? What do you think about this? What are your thoughts on this? I won't put my opinion or my thoughts on it out there. I want to see what other people think. So like,
Yeah, that's a good perspective. And two, like you mentioned, guys like Bill Gates, like I think some of the things that he's been, at least from the outward perspective, what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing is that he's trying to create this idea of 100% across the board testing for everybody, and like literally almost have it ID chipped almost. I don't know if I've seen that in direct, but that's the feeling I got from what I was reading. I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a great idea. But I don't want to take and discount him as an individual or what he's involved with completely,
yeah.
in the sense that you look to other programs he's been part of, and the war on malaria, which obviously I have a dog in the fight because I've had that, and it was horrific. But luckily I had services in the States to take care of me.
Hmm.
But without that, I would have been dead. So like I have a dog in the fight there. But he's even creating the ability to sustain a long term hygienic practices for using the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. Like like the self sustaining toilet systems he had created through some programs, and how that's affected millions of people positively.
Hmm.
That obviously helps sustain drinking water when it's not dumping back into the river systems and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the programs he's been involved with has been phenomenal. So I don't want to completely just throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say,
Yeah.
in regards to things like that, or guys like that, or organizations like theirs. Um, but I think some of it has to be able to have a true dialogue and not just be so uh, politically charged with every issue, because like there's a lot of democratic left-leaning policies I don't agree with, but then at the core of a lot of what they say or do, like I believe in it.
Hmm.
Like there's some companies that I think some of the things they do are retarded. But if you stop for a second and pull back and say, what was the origin of this company? Why did they do what they did? Like I'm reading a book right now by I think his name is John Mackey or something. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but he was the founder of Whole Foods.
Hmm.
I think they got bought out by Amazon or something now. But um, the idea of that store and what he did and what he created was pretty freaking cool, in the idea of trying to help people become better versions of themselves through the food they ate. And he had a very radical way in seeing like the whole entire ecosystem. So everybody involved with his store was affected positively or negatively with what he was doing. Now
Hmm.
you see the face of that store and it's pretty left leaning, and they shove a lot of things down your throats. Like you have to believe this or you're a bad person. So we end up throwing the whole institution in the garbage. Well, if we
Yeah.
can all collectively stop and say, okay, well, there's some stupid things we all do. Like I say some dumb things every day,
Hmm.
so just like maybe if we all stop for a second and held some judgment and let things unfold, almost like if you could pull out from your body right now and look at yourself from a even a 100-foot view of what you're doing right now, interacting with your wife or your kids or your boss. If you could see that person, so you're pulling the emotion out of it, you're seeing it objectively, how would you respond in that moment if you could see yourself reacting, talking? you know you're balling your fist up, you're grinding your teeth, you're ready to jack this guy in the face.
Hmm.
But if you saw yourself like getting heated over that, like the outcome is you want to become friends with this guy and partner, like should you be punching him in the face right now over one comment he made about your wife? Like, so I just think sometimes we have an inability to stop and check our emotions and our predisposed conditioning to what we believe about somebody or something.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're very quick to judge as human beings. We're not perfect, and so that is a fault I have as well. I'll be quick to judge somebody, and so I think we jump into the situation, or whatever we're talking about, with both feet. And sometimes we should probably just, instead of jumping, maybe we should just kind of creep a little bit closer to the edge before we jump. Do some research and figure out exactly what's going on. It's very reactive as far as shooting. Like, people are very reactive, and they immediately, whatever is coming at, first on their brain, it's anger, it's judgment, it's hostility. And yeah, I mean, if I was to step outside my body and watch myself, I'd probably reach back and slap myself in the face over and over, like, why are you doing that? Like, what's your problem? And unfortunately, human nature is one of those things. It's hard to control a lot of those feelings, emotions, and desires that you have as a human being. And so I think it number one, self control. When you see something stupid that's posted, or the Whole Foods thing, it's like self control. Like you said, take a step back. And what was the goal? What's the picture here? And so you don't have to agree with all of it, but like you said, you can agree with some of the things that at their core uh, seem to be seem to be right. It might be a good idea to do something like that. It's just kind of maybe the way it's worded, or maybe the overall intent or the end goal is a little bit different, not exactly what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
So
those are definitely good points. And um, yeah, and obviously we go on our soapboxes here, and it's easy to talk in a two-dimensional world, so to speak. And when all actuality hits you in the face, and you're left with, okay, I have to make a decision right now, whether it's small or big, doesn't matter. Like big moments aren't typically big moments; they're usually a series of small events that come to a climactic end, so to speak, or pivotal point where they all come together. So I think just looking at the lens of, every decision you make is a big decision ultimately. So if this is something I want to outlive this moment, if it's a 5-year decision, like maybe put some more time into this. If it has a ripple effect potentially, stop for a second and maybe think through this. That even has to do with posting stuff on social media. And not just, I use that as example because it's the tip of the iceberg. It's the things we see. But we do that every single day in our lives. We rile ourselves up over stupid things. We'll see things, we'll be talking to somebody, they'll say something, and you'll kind of hold on to a part of what they said, and we'll get all kind of amped up about that, and we'll hold on to that for a while and let it kind of penetrate our spirit, and then
mhm.
I don't know, it just seems like it does a lot of negativity for us and doesn't really help us. But we're not really doing anything different in our lives to stop that mentality from playing out day after day.
Yeah, it's easy to be on your soapbox in this 2D world, but no, I feel that things could go a little bit differently. We could I think be a little bit more patient, like you're saying, be a little more patient with the way things are going, and not. I think things are a little bit out of control. I get it; people need to be tested and things like that. I went to the hospital today because I got a refill on my medication, or another. The doctor put in another prescription, or for the same medicine, and so I have to pick it up at the hospital there on post. And dude, they had all these tables set up out there. They had all these arrows, all these lines, like, and the hospital was empty, which was great because it is the shortest wait I've ever had at the pharmacy there. Usually it's 2.5 hours that I'm waiting in line, or I've got my number, and then 2.5 hours later I finally get my medicine, which it's overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed, but um, you get your temperature checked. They give you a mask. All these things that you have to do, like you have to follow these little arrows. It was a bit crazy. Like, I understand why they're doing it. It's a hospital. They have a lot of sick people there. Sick and or dying, or all the above. And so I get it. They have to take precautionary measures, but we won't be able to sustain this the way that we're doing things right now. It'll businesses will go under, local businesses, mom and pop shops. They're going to go away. They can't sustain it. They won't be able to stay afloat. Amazon will always be there, but
That's another thing to bring about, like the idea of the overreach that's happening right now, and the consistently inconsistent mentality that I've been seeing watching this play out. So think about like the hypocrisy of a store that's like, let's say a clothing boutique store. They provide clothing. People need to buy clothing still, right?
mm-hmm,
You can buy the clothing at Walmart, all these big box chains, and that's okay. But to go into these boutique stores that typically have no less than 3 or 4 people, or no more than 3 or 4 people in at a time,
mm-hmm,
somehow that's not okay. But yet what's happening now is people are buying the clothes still, but they're going to the big box stores. They're not shopping local. So the local stores are going under because they can't sustain life.
mm-hmm,
Yet Walmart gets more business, the Costco's, the Home Depots. And I'm not against these stores. Like I'm not anti, establishment business and that kind of stuff. But why are we doing the systematic approach that we are to intentionally alienate millions of people that run businesses? Because you're given so much control and power to these big corporations, and who ultimately gets to benefit from those. And oftentimes to get permits to get into new cities and that kind of stuff, if you follow the food chain or follow the money trail, you end up finding some connection somewhere where someone's buttered somebody's situation with some extra cash,
mm-hmm.
seemingly, the crony capitalism, if you will. There's always these ties, and I'm not going on this conspiracy theory. It happens all the time. But the fact of the matter is, we're being so consistently inconsistent. You go to Panda Bowl, or what's that place? Panda Express.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's making minimum wage for doing what he's doing. Horrible hygiene practices, touching his face, touching your credit card, touching your food, and giving it to you. You go about your day, you eat it. Yet for churches to go give their communion out, that's not cool. And these people care about their people. They care about their health, there's people, but that's not okay. So like some of the things that are happening right now, it's so bizarre to me that we're okay with that.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point with the Panda Express. And no, we're not picking on Panda Express. It's just an example. But the I
No,
love
I,
this.
I am I am actually I'm picking on Panda for a
Oh,
second.
okay. All right. Well, I'll stay out of that. I won't judge Panda Express. But no, I agree with what you're saying. People touching everything. Yeah, they have gloves on and they touch everything, and hands, face, whatever, whatnot, and then it's all over your food. But you can't have mom and pop boutique or mom and pop shop open because it's not a chain. Like that's I don't think that I don't like that either. Like if Walmart can be open, then all the other local businesses can be open as well. To me, every business is essential.
Well, and especially if even if you want to say like, okay, let's say a tattoo shop. Like, I'm not saying we should put them on a business, but is that something you have to have right now? But if Walmart provides a service of any kind, whether it's food, beverage, clothing, automotive stuff, whatever Walmart could sell, why can't a applicable business in a smaller scale do the same exact service? Why are they not allowed to stay open? That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The hardware store right around the corner, it's a veteran owned, dude that lives right down the road from us here. Really glad that he put it in because I don't have to drive 30 minutes to go to Lowe's or Home Depot. They've been open the whole time, man. Like they did not shut down at all. And dude, every time I drive by there, every time I leave the house, basically, dude, it's full. Like there's always people in there. So good for him. He's been expanding and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I, it's just not going to last. These people that you're seeing, like pastors and whatnot, heads of churches, they're bucking the system because the system is stupid. It's broken. They're allowing Panda Express to be open, but you can't have a church open. Like you can't even. There was people that had a drive-in. Basically, everybody drives their vehicle to the parking lot or whatever, and then you're in your vehicle, and then you have church service that way, and that was not allowed as well. I know a lot of people have an issue with religion. They think it's not so bueno. But I feel like if you can choose, or if you're allowed to not believe anything, then I should be able to believe what I want to believe and go to church if I want to go to church. Um, and if I'm afraid that somebody there may have corona, I'm just not going to go to church. I'll watch it on TV, or on the computer. I mean, to me,
Hmm.
it's that simple. It's that easy. Um, if you're sick, or you think you're sick, go to make an appointment if you can, get tested if you can. But if there's a hint of, hey man, I'm not sure about it, well then stay home. That's your choice. But we shouldn't all be mandated to stay home. It should be up to us. Like, yeah, I get it. There's needs to be some sort of rules and guidelines in place, but it's a little ridiculous. We should be able to go about our lives again.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's quite a bit of negative Nancy crap for probably a lifetime. But yeah, I think it's good to get this stuff out of the way. And something that my brother told me today. We're talking about some business stuff, and he's like, he's like, I was talking to Steve. Steve's my father, and they're in business together. He's like, we were talking last week, and he's like, everybody's reeling, as they say,
Hmm.
and being very like guarded and negative and just very very like safety postured, safety oriented, and not really wanting to grow or to thrive. And he's like, we're actually, and what his opinion was, he's like, I've been in a stuck mindset since all this has started. Like he's like, I have an inability to see past like this block in my mind. So that's limited my ability to function, to work, to live, to thrive in his life, as he said. He's like, so we made a decision, and we're going to choose to thrive throughout all this stuff. So everything we do, if it's not a positive mindset type thing, like sure, yeah, use responsibility, use caution, use like reasonableness and common sense. But he's like, when it comes to our mindset and how we view business, he's like, if it's not a positive, thriving mentality, He's like, we're going to disregard it. He's like, we're going to literally like call it out for what it is.
Hmm.
Because right now, he's like, you live in this environment where there's so much negativity everywhere you turn. It's hard to stay positive. So I guess in their business, it was kind of cool to hear that. Like he's like, we're literally going to be this month is we're going to be intentional about thriving. Everything we do. So like for businesses that are still in existence right now but are struggling, they're going to give some free services that they need to help those companies thrive. Because right now they have that payroll protection. There's some benefits to them to keep their employees on, and some of their clients had contracts they're working against pull back, understandably so. But he's
Hmm.
like, you know what, we're going to help other people thrive. And you know what, the idea of if you're not living, if you're not giving, like I truly believe that. So the idea of that is you spur other people's actions because of your actions. So being positive, giving when you don't maybe have stuff to give, gives people hope. And I think right now we have to be doing more of that. And one person in particular I want to kind of call out here is Jason Brana. He's one guy he's always texting or calling, and he's always being proactive with like, hey man, how are you doing? Like checking in and always kind of giving a tidbit of hope. And it's cool because it's always random. There's no like system behind it. But every
Hmm.
time I get a text, even small, it changes my perspective. Like it gives me a good compass check again. So between the two of us and other people that listen to this, it'd be cool if were more proactive with anybody in our circles, just to be that beacon of hope, beacon of light, and whether it's business, personal, um, because we need more of it right now.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely do. Having that positivity, I like you said, it changes you. It helps you to see the better, see the good in the world, and obviously Jason, whatever he's for whatever reason, he's a positive person, and maybe that's his personality, or maybe he's trying to do the same thing. He's like, hey, I'm tired of all this negativity. Let's project positivity. Like Levi, that dude, nonstop. He does not stop. I don't see anything negative ever. He doesn't post anything negative ever, and it's just he's always smiling. He's always happy, and so something's going right. And I feed off of that. I purposely go to his page and look at what he's got going on, because I the feedback that I get from internally is great, because I'm like, this guy's got it going on, despite all the crap that's going on out there and everything. It's like this dude is maintaining that positive attitude. As they say, you got to have that PMA, that positive mental attitude. And so it's difficult. I mean, I'm sure he finds it difficult as well, but whatever he's doing is working. And I think that we can take a lesson from him and Jason on that hey, look, dude, like it doesn't matter. You can find the positive in every day. You can find the positive in something.
Could not agree more with that. And one thing that like yesterday is Mother's Day, and we planned out a Mother's Day hike, and where we went, I knew there's an awesome waterfall area where we could hook some hammocks up to.
Hmm.
So we hiked in a couple miles with the kids. We went with my brother and sister-in-law and their kids. So we hiked in. We had lunch planned out, like a picnic lunch down by the river, and then I don't know, quarter mile away we had these. I set up hammocks for my wife and her sister, and it was actually pretty freaking awesome. Like it was right over the top, like right behind the waterfall. So like your whole view when you're like laying in your hammock is just a waterfall. Um, Kind of a secluded area, beautiful forest. And so they did that thing, and I went down with my brother-in-law with the kids. We were throwing rocks in the river, and I'm like, I'm gonna actually brought like an extra pair of shorts and a towel, and I decided because it's like glacier water right now, it's freezing cold. But I used to do that all the time. I used to jump in the water, and it was like freezing cold, based and just enjoy that. That is just invigorating in nature, and it shocks your system, and
Hmm.
you feel just rushing with life. And so I decided that yesterday, and like the feeling I got when I got out of the water, it wasn't super deep, so I had to like a push up to get all the way under the water where I was.
Hmm.
Um, Anyways, so the water was freezing. It was not easy to get in. I hurt my foot getting into the water, cut my other leg, but then I laid underwater for a quick second, get back up, and the amount of life I felt, it was amazing how quick my perspective changed. Like everything felt good again. And then of course you get into dry land and sun's hitting you, and you get start warm up, and there was just such a shift in my mind from something so small. And of course we're out in nature, and it's just the hiking experience, and when you're out in nature it just does something to your spirit anyways. But Yeah, I wonder like if people have things in their life right now, like that gives them that shock to their system to see things from a positive perspective. Because if you're in that cycle of negativity and hostility and toxicity, like how do you shock that to get out of that?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think it's a great question and it's a good way of putting it. Using that analogy with the water, and the water is very brisk. You know, it's definitely cold. I've done that as well, and it's rejuvenating, really. Um, what we would do, a side story here, quick. We would take and we would shock ourselves in intentionally. So on the older vehicles, they had a distributor for the engine, and I won't bore people with all the ins and outs of it. But anyways, you hook it up to a battery and you spin it, and it produces a spark, right? Just like it would on a car. You hook it up to a car battery. Well, we would stick a bolt in there to where it would shock us, and we would just sit there and spin it. And dude, it was great. It was invigorating. Like it was a good. It felt good. If you felt alive, it sounds weird, but that's a shock to the system. And so same thing with that, 30-degree water, 40-degree water, that it'll rejuvenate the system. Maybe we all need to. I'm not saying go out and shock yourself. Um, don't do stupid stuff like I do and did as a kid. But yeah, I think we could use a some form of shock to our body to help kind of realign or level the bubbles a little bit and whatnot. So no, that's a good point there. I like that. But yeah, I think that we could all use something like that to kind of help and reset us, I guess, in a way. And no, just being out. Like I'm looking forward to this weekend because we'll be in a park. We're gonna stay in a yurt and bringing some my paddle boards, going doing some hiking and whatnot. And I think it'd be good to just go out there and kind of disconnect from the world and just hike and fish and just hang out, enjoy. We've had really good weather, so bring some hammocks and just kind of do nothing, which is the hardest thing to do, is just sit there in a hammock and do nothing. It's extremely difficult. For me, it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. But even if you're doing something like I used to like carve stuff when I'm camping or hanging out, like it's like you're not really doing anything, but you're staying busy, keeping your hands moving. 'Cause that's like I thrive in that environment when I'm not. There's no agenda, so to speak. But I'm able to just kind of crap around, whittle with stuff, build little contraptions, like start fires with magnifying glasses, like just that small stuff. And it's therapeutic in nature just to be able to do nothing like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm the same way. I enjoy all of that. I think it's very therapeutic, and a lot of people are like, "Well, we can't go outside. We're in lockdown." Like, the police aren't at your front door making sure you don't leave the house. Like, my thing is, I'd leave the house if we had a lockdown thing. I'd still leave the house. I'm leaving the house. I'm going outside because where does coronavirus not thrive? Outside in the sun. So where am I gonna go? Outside in the
In
sun.
the dang sun. Yeah, we have that cabin booked for an undisclosed location in an undisclosed state
Hmm.
in July for about 3 weeks, and I could not. The anticipation I have for that, I'm like it's like a kid like waiting for Christmas to happen. I'm so excited just because I know the lake. It's phenomenal swimming. The fishing is great. Going out wakeboarding, I'm sure, and just honestly, like sitting out on the dock with my wife in the morning drinking coffee. Just even that is going to be freaking amazing. It's like even like talking about shocking your system. Can you do something and put it out in front of you to kind of look forward to something again? Because that's like right now, people feel like on that movie Groundhog's Day, like
Hmm.
just the same thing day in and day out. But put something out in front of you that you look forward to kind of give yourself some hope and something to look just in general to look forward to. It makes your day go a little bit better, and you start building these building blocks of positivity. And after a while, you start to see and feel and do more positive things, and
Hmm.
ultimately, your reality is a lot more positive all of a sudden.
Yeah, yeah. I think having that target or that event, because I have another event that's going to happen probably first week of August, and you'll be jealous of this one. I hate driving, so it's going to be interesting. So a buddy of mine, so myself and then three other guys that I served with in RRC. One of them was our JTAC, and then the two other guys. I actually went through the reconnaissance training course with him. So we were, basically living together for 9 months straight throughout the course. So we've just kind of stayed really good friends over the course of the years and whatnot. We've gone our separate ways, but so we're going to, myself and one of the guys is going to drive from here all the way out to Utah, and another guy lives out there. Our JTAC lives out there in Washington State, and then my other buddy lives in Colorado. And so we're all going to meet up. We're going to rent a boat or a raft, and we're going to go float the Green River and probably do about 3 nights, 4 days of camping. So yeah, that I'm really looking forward to that because that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I'm not jealous at all.
It's
Well,
the dude. It's the driving across the United States that's gonna. But it's with somebody that I can have a conversation with and whatnot, and so I don't think it'll be too bad.
dude, if I drove across with my wife and two kids, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, God bless you for that one. That's
Well,
you're a brave man. Let's see how that works. Well, let's see how that works out for him, Cotton. F&A Cotton.
no, I did. Remember I drove to Michigan? Like,
I know, I
yeah,
know.
it
Yeah.
was, it was, the way there was not, it was actually fun. The way back, not so much,
Mm,
especially when my kid
so
got some McDonald's overeating McDonald's stomach issues all of a sudden in like the middle of North Dakota, the longest state known to man, probably. Actually, I think
mm.
Montana was worse, but it was beautiful there.
You ever driven
So,
across Texas?
some of Texas, but no, not all of Texas.
Yeah, dude, you can drive all day across Texas and you're still in Texas. Um, yeah, that so I will say, just I'll put a bug in your ear, something that I found extremely enjoyable as a kid. I wasn't old enough to drive, so it's that much more enjoyable. But we had a RV, a motorhome, the one where you're driving it, and so all the little ankle biters and rugrats, whatever, were able to be in the back and play around, be rambunctious. And when they're like, "Hey, I gotta go pee," well, right there's the bathroom. Go pee. I'm hungry. There's the fridge. So that was a really cool trip. We drove up to Canada. So
No,
that was
that is awesome. I was want to do that, but yeah, we'll have to wait a couple years on that. On that note, I just realized the time. I got a meeting I got to jump into in a second here, but um, yeah, obviously we didn't have a huge agenda today, but I'm glad to finally, circle back to some kind of positive outcome because things aren't looking so bleak all the time.
no. I don't. Things aren't that bad. Like it's up to us. We're in charge of that, and like we're in control of that. We're in control of our own emotions, or we should be. So yeah, if you want to find negativity, you'll find it. You'll see it. It's out there everywhere. But if you take the time to, look and do a little searching, you'll find a lot of positivity out there. There's a lot of people that are still very positive and that can actually help you in this time of pandemic crisis, whatever the hell you want to call it. So um, yeah, it's been a free flow freestyle episode, which is good. Sometimes it's good to just talk about random stuff and kind of what's going on and whatnot. So no, it's been good.
Agreed. Well, hey, you have a great week, and yeah, you know what? This is one thing that I think anybody listening to this podcast, we want some more guests and whatnot on here. But if you have any thoughts, like concerns and topics that you want to talk about, like, you know, give us a quick DM or shout us out on Facebook or Instagram. But it'd be cool to get some more feedback to, what are things on people's minds they actually want to get out and talk about.
Yeah, and you prompted it, so I'll put it out there on social. I'll keep bugging people and I'll give them the email and all that stuff, and that way we can get a little bit more engagement from folks. But yeah, I agree. I
Awesome.
agree.
Awesome. All right. Well, you guys have a great week. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we'll see y'all later.